Long before we had screens, scroll wheels, and skeuomorphism, try saying that fast, we were already wrestling with what it meant to design for humans. Take, for example, the Roman Colosseum. Built nearly 2,000 years ago, this wasn't just a feat of architecture, it was also a carefully orchestrated user experience. The Romans didn't just think about how to build it, they also thought about how people would use it. They designed it for easy access with a ticketing system based on numbered entry and a layout that could empty 50,000 spectators in under 15 minutes. The acoustics were finely tuned so the roar of the crowd echoed across the arena, and shaded awnings helped protect people from the sun. Every detail was intentional. So, in many ways, it was a masterclass in UX before UX even had a name. We like to think UX is part of the digital era, but humans have been designing for users in mind since the first tool was shaped to fit a hand. Egyptian sickles were curved to match the arc of the arm. Greek amphitheaters optimized the lines of sight and sound, and Roman roads were engineered for easy maintenance because, after all, someone had to maintain them. These weren't just technical solutions, they were people-first designs. Even medieval cathedrals were built with experience in mind. Architects considered the way the light would filter through the stained glass at different times of day, and the experience of awe wasn't just accidental, it was designed in. And while we'll probably skip ahead now because you don't want a lecture on Mesopotamian farming tools, it is worth acknowledging one simple truth. UX isn't new, only the term is. You see, things changed in the mid-20th century, with the rise of aviation and computing forcing us to formalize how we approached usability. Mistakes became expensive or even fatal, so human factor engineering emerged. We studied how people interacted with complex systems and tried to design those systems to be safer and more intuitive. It started with cockpits. Aircraft instrumentation had to be easy to read and understand under pressure. This wasn't just about making things look pretty, it was about saving lives. And that pragmatic approach to user-centered design later shaped everything from microwave interfaces to early computer systems. Now, when we fast forward to the 1980s, computing began to hit the mainstream, and that's where things really took off. It all began at Xerox PARC. Researchers introduced the first graphical user interface, and Apple took it further with the Macintosh, turning computing from a tool for specialists into something that everybody could use. Suddenly, usability wasn't just a nice to have, it was a competitive advantage. And in 1993, Don Norman, who was working at Apple at the time, coined the term user experience. He said, "I invented it because I thought the human interface and usability were too narrow." And that moment really matters because what Norman was arguing was for a broader view of design. Not just screens, not just features, but the entire experience from the first moment somebody hears about a product to the support they receive after using it. He went on to say user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. In other words, UX was never meant to be confined to wireframes, screens, and user flows. It was meant to be everything. By the early 2000s, UX had a seat at the table, admittedly a bit of a wobbly one back then, and Jesse James Garrett released the Elements of User Experience in 2002 that became the cornerstone for the field. Garrett didn't just break down UX into layers. He talked about strategy, scope, structure, skeletons, and surface. But he also emphasized that it started with strategy. Before we push pixels or run tests, we need to understand user needs and business goals. And that idea changed things. We weren't just designing interfaces, we were shaping how people experience products, services, and even entire brands. UX wasn't just about implementation, it was about shaping products from the very beginning, not just making tweaks at the end. And as Agile came along, UX had to adapt again. We embraced faster feedback loops, closer collaboration, and more interactive designs. We moved from long documentation to quick prototypes, from abstract personas to real user insights. And by 2010-ish, UX had grown up. Design thinking was gaining traction, and suddenly UX was sharing the spotlight with business strategy. Service design entered the conversation. We weren't just designing digital tools, we were solving human problems, which are often messy and non-linear. As UX matured, we saw disciplines emerge from it. Our understanding of UX broadened, leading to specializations in areas like UI design, product design, service design, and design ops. and even extending into marketing and customer service. So let's clear things up a bit about what each of those are. UI design is about what the user sees and interacts with. Think buttons, typography, animation. It's look and feel. Product design is broader. It connects user needs with business goals. Product designers care about features, roadmaps, KPIs, and how the product evolves over time. And then there's design ops and service design that sit more behind the scenes. They're about scaling design efficiently. They orchestrate people, tools, workflows to support good outcomes. Kind of like a stage manager for a show that makes sure the lighting, props, and crew all hit their marks. You might never notice when things are going well, but without them, the whole production risks falling apart. And user experience is front of stage. It's the performance the audience actually experiences. It's the story that unfolds when somebody buys your product, uses it, recommends it, or gets frustrated and gives up. Every moment on that journey is part of the user experience, whether it is a sleek onboarding flow, an unreadable error message, or a helpful reply from customer support. UX is the full experience. It's not a department, it's not a phase, it's not a deliverable. It's what happens to your users, whether you intended or not. Take something as emblematic as buying an Apple product. The UX includes everything from the anticipation built up by the marketing, the elegant packaging design, the satisfying moment of lifting the lid, the device that powers on right out the box, the intuitive setup process, and the helpful support of the Genius Bar. You might admire the product design, but the experience is everything that surrounds it. Something that Apple understood with Don Norman right back in the early 90s. He said, no product is an island. A product is more than a product. It's a cohesive, integrated set of experiences, and you need to make them all work seamlessly together. A good UI is important. A strong product strategy is essential. But if the experience feels clunky, frustrating, or inconsistent, none of that matters. UX connects the dots. It asks, how does it feel to use this? Does it make sense? Does it meet user needs? And it reminds us that what we design isn't just a product or a service, it's a human moment. So UX has matured significantly. Most business leaders now understand its importance, at least in theory. You'll rarely hear someone argue against creating a good user experience, but understanding that isn't the same as implementation. The reality is that many organizations are far from the idealized vision we read about online. UX teams are often understaffed and under-resourced. They're expected to deliver transformative results with minimal support, limited budget, and impossible timelines. The problem goes even deeper than that. UX has been fundamentally misunderstood and underappreciated within many organizations. Instead of being involved in strategic decisions from the start, UX professionals are often relegated to implementation roles, brought in to make things look pretty after all the important decisions have already been made. True UX work, which should touch every aspect of how the user interacts with an organization, frequently runs into organizational silos. The kind of cross-functional collaboration required for excellent user experience threatens established power structures and comfortable routines. And as a result, UX wings are clipped. Its scope is limited to safe, contained projects that won't ruffle any feathers. The promise of UX isn't about better interfaces, it's about better organizations. But that promise remains largely unfulfilled in many companies. These challenges aren't just frustrating for us as UX professionals, they're holding back organizations from delivering truly exceptional user experiences. The gap between what's possible and what's actually being delivered continues to widen. Throughout the rest of this course in the podcast, we're going to explore these challenges in detail and, more importantly, discuss practical strategies for overcoming them. Because understanding the problem is only the first step. What really matters is how we respond to it. So next time, we'll explore what it means to be a true UX designer in an organization. But between now and then, I'd encourage you to reflect on your current role. Consider whether there's a gap between what others in your organization expect from you and what you believe you should be doing. Are you being asked simply to make things pretty, or are you empowered to shape the organization in a meaningful way to create incredible experiences? I'd encourage you to take a moment to jot down your thoughts. This reflection will be valuable as we dive deeper into defining and claiming our role as UX professionals. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you'd share those by dropping me an email to paul@boagworld.com. Your insights will be used to shape the future content of this course, ensuring it addresses the real challenges you face in your UX role. I will, I promise, read every response and use them to make the journey more valuable for everybody. And I'll do my best to reply as much as I can. User experience design has evolved far beyond its digital roots, from ancient Roman architecture to industrial designers and finally into today's digital interfaces. The journey of UX shows us that we should always be striving to create better human experiences.